Ladies, gentlemen, and internet trolls, welcome back to Fan Fridays, the show where I give outsiders an inside look into the mind of an MLB All-Star. Have you ever wondered what I think is the most underrated position on a baseball field? I got that answer for you and many more right after the break. All right, let's answer some questions from YouTube first. Question number 1. In regards to your pitching mechanics, what do you think you do really well, and what are some things you could work on? I think I do almost everything almost perfectly. I've spent a lot of years getting to that level, and my mechanics are very well optimized right now. The one thing that I would like to do better is keeping my head level, eyesight purposes, and also neck strains and stuff like that. I have a tendency when I'm rotating to pull my neck off kind of to the side. I rotate, I pull it this way, and then I kind of point it up when I'm throwing, and then that causes a disconnect and my eyes get pulled off the target, so my command gets worse, and I don't rotate nearly as efficiently around my spine, and so my stuff is inconsistent. But that's basically the last thing I'm working on. I block my lead leg really well. I sit really well. My hips rotate well. I get a lot of shoulder-hip separation. I time it well. I spiral my elbow well. Everything I do is pretty optimized. I would like to move a little bit faster into landing. Obviously, there's certain things that I can optimize a little bit more, but as far as the overall mechanical model, I'm extremely happy with where my mechanics are right now from a biomechanics standpoint. So hopefully that answers your question. Question number 2. If you could go pro in any other sport, what sport would it be and which position would you play? I would play hockey, and I would be a forward of some sort. There's something just really intriguing to me about the merging of skills there in hockey. It's super physical. You're on skates. It's really demanding. And the, hand-eye coordination, stick-puck coordination, some of the things they do are crazy. The way they can flip a puck up to the top of the net, go through people's legs. So I don't know. I'm a big hockey fan, and so I'd be a forward probably. Something to do with puck handling and that skill is really intriguing to me. Question number 3. When you are working in your bullpen sessions in season, between starts, do you ever purposely get into the narrow internal mindset if you're trying to fix something mechanically? I do unintentionally get into that sometimes, but I've gotten pretty good recently at catching myself and taking myself back out of it. For instance, I'll start thinking about how I'm starting my delivery because I'll get off balance in one. I'm like, okay, I didn't start this way. And I'll throw the next pitch and be nowhere close to where I was trying to throw it. And I immediately go back and say, nope, that's the wrong thing. You need to just look at the target and focus externally, very, very narrowly. I try to keep myself out of narrow internal as much as possible. If I want to work on something mechanical, I will think before the session on what constraint drill I need to do, or what type of throwing I need to do, or what cue I need to have in playing catch so I can fix that. For instance, sometimes I have a tendency to get lazy with my glove side and I don't pull it as aggressively as I need to. And so I end up landing, it's blocking me off, and then I pull everything off to the side. So if that's the case, I will really emphasize the pull in my pivot pickoffs as I'm warming up, and then I will do some athletic drills, usually an actual pickoff throw where I'm having to turn and pull this really quickly to get my body to turn to emphasize that skill, and then knowing that that's the majority of my volume for the day. And then when I get on the mound itself, I'm just trying to command the ball, and over the course of the 3 or 4 days I have until my next start, generally speaking, that corrects itself through the constraint drills that I've chosen. So I try to stay out of the narrow internal mindset at all costs. And now for some questions from my fans at trevorbauer.com. Question number 4. Jim in Park asks, how do you manage your long-term investments? Do you have a financial advisor or invest on your own? Do you trade individual stocks, index funds, or mutual funds? What is your most unorthodox investment? That's a great question, something that a lot of athletes don't think about, or they have people that aren't thinking about it for them or aren't advising them the right way or whatever. And you see a lot of athletes make a lot of money and spend a lot of money, lose a lot of money, and end up being broke and having to work after their careers are done. So not a good cycle to get stuck in. I've been very fortunate to have a father who is extremely involved in the financial side of things. My dad ran his own business for 20-something years, 25 years, something like that. and is very good at understanding investments and how to recommend different things to me. So the first investment that I made was in a house for myself, place to live. And then I started investing after that in other rental properties. So I have some rental properties now that I rent them out and basically try to balance out the rent that I'm getting in with the mortgage so that I'm not paying anything on them year in, year out, and then schedule them out so that when I'm done playing baseball, I'll have revenue generating assets that I've paid very little for overall out of pocket. So that was some of my investments there. Then I got into the stock market as well. I was able to get into the stock market. Thankfully, I signed at a time and I got my bonus at a time when the stock market was down. So I made a good amount on the stock market recovering from the housing crash in the early 2010s. So that was a good investment for me. I'm in some short-term loan funds, which are really good. Basically, people that are looking to like flip houses, let's say. There's a lot of different examples, but people who need money short-term to invest in something and then they're going to have money coming back, they'll take out short-term loans. And the people who are loaning the money short term, it's a higher risk, so they'll charge more on the interest side. And so those can produce 6 to 7% return fairly consistently throughout the year with very low risk to the actual people that are providing the money to the fund. Because if someone doesn't pay the money back, then you foreclose on the asset that they purchased, since the majority of the time someone is purchasing an asset with that short-term money. And then you sell it for the cost they purchased it for, and you can pull the money back out. So pretty safe investment there, something that I'm excited about. And then unorthodox investments, I'm a investor in Gnarly Jerky. So I own part of a beef jerky company. Shout out to Gnarly. It's some of the best jerky on the market, if not the best jerky on the market. So looking for that to continue to get out there and have more people testing that out and experiencing what a great product it is. I'm also invested in something called Players TV, which is trying to, consolidate all athlete-generated media into one spot. So fans know they can go to this one spot and get media from their favorite basketball player, football player, baseball player, hockey player, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So athlete-produced content, creating a distribution network for athlete-produced content. Letting the fans and the athletes basically speak directly to each other through that. So that's an investment I'm excited in. And then I have the riskier part of my portfolio. Those two things definitely fall in the riskier part of my portfolio. And then I have, my businesses like Momentum that I run that I have costs associated with those since they're all self-funded right now. So it's an investment for the future. It's a large gamble because who knows when you start a business, who knows if it's going to be successful long-term or not. Most of them fail. But that's kind of the overview. And my dad is very good at advising on that and overseeing it. And I also have a couple financial advisors that I've worked with in different areas that have been very helpful. Jeff Becker is the man. So shout out to Jeff as well. All right, question number 5. Evan Thompson says, do you think someone that has little to no experience in competitive baseball but has a tremendous love for the game can make it as a coach or manager for a team? Why or why not? Yes, I do think they can make it as a coach or a manager. There's going to be some hurdles. I think that the insight that you would get from not having participated in the game or not having played is extremely valuable because you have a fresh look at things and you can ask questions like, why do we do this? Does that make sense? That doesn't make sense to me. Why is it done that way? And so you can get rid of some of the things that have always been done in baseball that no one ever questions, and you can bring in some new ideas. That being said, the learning curve is going to be very steep on how the flow of a season goes, how players interact, how players view the game, some of the things they talk about, and the way, the reason they feel the way they do. And as a manager specifically, that's almost the most important part. You need to understand the pulse of your players and why they're feeling the way they are and how to help them make it through the season, more so mentally and emotionally than physically. So there's some stuff there, and then the strategy of it, understanding like little things like a reliever has thrown 2 out of the last 3 days, and he's the best matchup for this situation, but he's feeling a little bit beat up today, so probably isn't the best matchup given the situation. Understanding how 2 out of 3 days can affect a reliever, how some guys, when they're in a slump, they want a couple days off to reset mentally. When do you give a guy a day off, or when do you just throw him back out there because he needs to just see more pitches to work himself out of it? Understanding the personalities of the players and understanding when the right times for that are. Like, it's August and you've played 21 games straight, maybe giving some guys a day off. Some guys don't want that, some guys do. So a lot of those things, the kind of the intricacies of making it through a big league season, you'd have to learn those and get familiar with those, and it'd be a steep learning curve. But I definitely think that people who haven't played the game have something very unique to offer, and why not? I think they could be managers or high-level officials in a team, no problem. Question number 6, Jacob Richards says, what advice can you give a catcher from a pitcher's point of view? I want to know as a pitcher that my catcher is studying as much as I am or more, that is putting in the time and the effort as much or more than I am, and it's just paying attention to the hitter. Also, that's he's on my program. We're on the same program. We're communicating, but he wants me to be successful. It's not about the catcher. It's about the unit, the pitcher and the catcher, doing something that's beneficial for the team. So communication is super important. Talk to the pitcher, find out what he likes. Where does he like you to set up? In what counts? What breaking ball does he like to throw more behind in the count versus ahead in the count? Let him know in between innings, hey, I'm seeing this with this hitter, I'm seeing that with this hitter. But make sure you're doing it from a place of trying to help the pitcher out, and from a place of you've put in the work and you've studied, so you know what you're talking about. On the physical side, obviously the better you are at framing the ball and receiving the ball, the better you are at calling a game and noticing what hitters are doing. That stuff all helps. But most pitchers are understanding of the fact that catchers are trying their hardest. So as long as you have open lines of communication, usually that relationship will be very good. Last but not least, question number 7. Sorry if I mess up your name here, but Ricardo Arocha asks, what is the most underrated position on an MLB team? And I think the middle relievers are the most underrated position. They pitch in some of the lowest leverage situations. Let's say your team is down 5-1. The starters had a rough 5th inning and you put a middle reliever in there. Your chances of winning that game, or the effect that reliever can have on that game, might seem very small. And when you look at the numbers, they are pretty small, the win probabilities and all that stuff. But being able to chew up a couple of those innings and not give up runs is so important, because that saves an extra reliever or two from having to pitch that day, which means they're fresher for the next day, which means if you're winning the next day, then those guys are available to help you win that game. Also, keeping the score close so that you can add a run. Maybe in this example, you add a run in the 6th, and now you're only down 4. And then you get a 2-run homer in the 8th, and now you're only down 2. And now you have a chance of coming back and winning that game in the 9th. Even if you don't win it, you put pressure on the other team. They have to use some of their better relievers. They have to use those guys in higher leverage situations, more stress, higher leverage pitches. So those guys aren't as available for the next game or the remaining part of the series. So I think a lot of these things get lost by the casual fan that doesn't understand how important it is to have a reliever come in and stop the bleeding and cover that the rest of the 5th, the 6th, and potentially some of the 7th. That's such a huge thing for the team morale, for the team chances of winning that game, but also future games in that series against the same team, and also just making it through a season as a whole. Guys that can go out there and chew up 2 or 3 innings, and then maybe they don't pitch again for another 3 or 4 days, but the effect that they've had not having to have 3 or 4 guys chew up those 3 or 4 innings is so big for the longevity and health of a bullpen and health of a team and stuff like that. So I would say middle relievers, because they get very little attention. They get most of the blame and almost none of the credit, but they serve a very important role on a team making it through a season. So that's my answer. Most underrated position on an MLB team, middle reliever. All right, that's a lot of your questions for the day. That's it for those. But I have a question of my own, and that question is, what are your opinions on virtual reality headsets? Have you used them? Have you not used them? Is it a fad? Is it the future? Do you like them? Do you dislike them? And what baseball content would you like to see? You want to be out at BP? You want to be in practice, in the clubhouse, in the dugout? Like, what would you like to see in a virtual reality headset? Let me know in the comments below. And that's all for today's episode. So drop your questions. If you have questions that you'd like me to cover, drop those in the comments below. Or if you'd like a shout out in a future video, head on over to trevorbauer.com, sign up for my email list, and submit your questions on the homepage. If you haven't already subscribed to this channel, that would really help me out. Leave me a like, leave me a comment, and share this channel with any of your friends who don't know it exists, who might have questions of their own. I'm trying to reach 100,000 subscribers by the end of 2020. So any help you can give me on that goal would be greatly appreciated. It will allow me to give more baseball information to more people and reach as many people as possible with free information. So Without further ado, appreciate you watching. For anyone who made it this far, thank you very much. Appreciate your support as always, and I will see you in the next video. Have a great day.